Hello, this is Victor. I'm here with a new math hammer, and this time what I want to do is I will compare the Eldar Jet bikes of the three codexes. So I will compare the Eldar Jet bikes from the Harlequins, from the normal Eldar, and from the Dark Eldar. So and this is specifically these are the units that I want to compare. We will compare three Skyweavers, 150 points, 3 Skyweavers with higher wear cannon, 3 Windriders, 6 Windriders with 1 or 2 shuriken cannons, and then the Reavers, so 3 Reavers with cluster caltrops, 3 Reavers with blaster, 3 Reavers with blaster and cluster caltrops, 6 Reavers with blaster, 6 Reavers with 2 cluster caltrops, and then 6 Reavers with blaster and 2 cluster caltrops, and 6 Reavers with helllinces. So here the objective is to see which codex have the best jet bike of the three, and see how we can use these jet bikes and what are strategically the most flexible and what they give in each of them give to the army. So, and as usual, I will do the comparison first, the mathematical comparison, looking the different shooting and all this type of stuff. Remember that you can see in the link in the comments below. You can go to how this tool is used. This is a statistical tool that I'm using. If you want to know more details, all the scores are normalized. So if you see difference in points, all the scores that you will see here are normalized to the points of the unit. And so here we have in the blue square, we have we will have always the jet bikes, and then on the on top we'll see units from other codex as a comparison, and also to see how they perform compared to other units from other codexes. So first, shooting to light infantry, we see that the jet bikes and the Skyweavers are the best at shooting, and especially there is a big difference if you see here at short range when we say shooting with or without the star bolas. So star bolas is giving a huge punch in shooting, so it's important that we use this before we start having losses. You see it's being more than double in shooting efficiency here. We also see that at medium range, Skyweavers are still strong. It's decreasing a little bit with the high wear cannon, of course, because we're shooting infantry, and the other jet bikes just go down. Here we only have the shuriken cannon. So this is how goes. Why the points one shooting cannon is almost the same as 3, because they are normalized. So you see that we have one shuriken cannon by 61 points. We have two shuriken cannons with 122 points, so it's almost the same. Yeah, so you see that 3 Windriders plus 1 shuriken cannon is almost costing the same as 1 Skyweaver, that is 50 points. So the Dark Eldar don't have great shooting options if we compare to other units. So we will see that Mandrakes are one of the best units shooting at light infantry, and then we have the Cavalry Warriors and the cultists with flames at short range, or the Purgation unit that are good at short and medium range. And if we then look at shooting at heavy infantry, we see more or less the same picture as before. Of course, the high wear cannon is losing a lot of efficiency, because here the low strength and AP and not too good AP is penalizing. We see that if we compare to units from other codexes, because they are at short range, the jet bikes, the Eldar jet bikes and the Skyweavers, when they can use the star ballers, are in parity with other units from other codexes, and especially the Skyweaver with the star ballers is very strong at short range against heavy infantry. But then when we look at shooting to monsters, we see that is when we have all the Dark Eldar options to be the best. So sorry if here the last one is cutted. I will move this up to make it more visible. So you see here the Reavers with hill lenses. All these are quite empathic with the although the best option if we want to shoot monsters are Cavalry Warriors with Sprinter Cannon. If we look shooting at fighting monsters, it's more or the same, and here they are not really high scores, and if you compare to units that are good at shooting monsters like the Cavalry Warriors, there is a big difference. When we go to shooting vehicles, we see that the Shuriken Cannon is better than the Highwire Cannon when shooting light vehicles. So Highwire Cannon is not really giving a lot, as the Shuriken Cannon with the 3 shots. And here is the big importance. So the Highwire Cannon is a blast weapon. So the blast weapon on a vehicle will give one hit if you are lucky and you don't deviate too much, while the Shuriken Cannon is giving you 3 shots. So in average, with the ability of the Harlequins, you will have 2 hits. So you have more hits using the Shuriken Cannon than using the Highwire Cannon. I think having Highwire Cannon with blast is a miss. Is a big miss. It's not compatible. So if you shoot in vehicles, normally you don't want blast. You want some number. So you want number of shots, but you don't want blast, because the blast is not giving any advantage when shooting vehicles. So this is why the Highwire Cannon is not as good as the Shuriken Cannon when shooting at light vehicles. We still see that the jet bikes, so the Eldar is very similar to what we see against infantry, although the Highwire is more close to the Shuriken Cannon. If we compare to unit that is very good at shooting light vehicles, like the Purgation, they are not as good as these units. If we look now shooting at heavy vehicles, is the only case where the Highwire Cannon is giving something. It's the only case where the Highwire Cannon will give you some advantage. And the Highwire Cannon, here you can see well the score, but the score of the hill lances is 8. So the Highwire Cannon is better than any other option. And the only ones that are similar to them is the Necrons at short distance, or is the Necrons, or the Purgation Squad. So the Highwire Cannon is only advisable if you face, for example, vehicles with armor 13 or 14. If you have in front Imperial Knights, or you have in front Lehman Russes or Land Riders. Then also will depend a lot of the meta if you prefer the Highwire, you prefer the Highwire or you prefer the Shuriken Cannon. The Shuriken Cannon is more versatile, but they cannot do anything against heavy vehicles. If we look now shooting at flyers, of course the Highwire option have not any shooting against, and this is another big miss I think from the Highwire Cannon. It's a blast weapon, so you cannot shoot flyers, and I think this is a big miss. And really no good options to shoot flying vehicles, and if you compare to Purgation Squad, that they are not specialized anti-fly, but they have good in shooting vehicles, so you are 1/3 of them in many of the best options. But if we see then the summary of the total, here I will need to make it, move it a little bit, everything up to make it more visible for you. So if we look how it's looking like when shooting, the total result in shooting, we see that the best options are the jet bikes and then the Shuriken Cannon with the star bolas. The Shuriken Cannon is more versatile than the Highwire, and this way the score is higher. If in your meta you have a lot of vehicles, then you have to use Highwire. It's going to be slightly better, especially against heavy vehicles. If we see the Dark Eldar, the options of Dark Eldar are not good, and the best option in shooting for the Dark Eldar are the Reavers with blasters, and the hill lances. So you will see that in shooting, hill lances and blasters are in parity. If we go back and we compare them, we see that against heavy vehicles, the hill lancers are slightly better. Against light vehicles, the hill lancers are slightly better, but they are almost always scoring the same points. And only the blasters is better against monsters, but then against infantry they are the same. So the blasters and hill lancers have a very similar performance. I will say, thanks to the ability of being Melta and having AP1, I will prefer hill lances compared to the blasters on the bikes, because you can be very close. You can make use of the Melta rule, having the 2d6 to penetrate, plus being AP1, you will have more options to destroy the vehicle when you do a penetrating hit. Now, if we look at the resistance of the unit, we see that the jetbikes that have the better resistance are the ones from the Eldar, so are the Windriders. Sorry that here I put jetbikes, but here I was meaning the Windriders. So we see that they are the most resistant thanks to the armor 3+. All have the same toughness, and then thanks that they are very cheap and have armor 3+, they resist better all different types of shooting. So we have the 4 different types: common weapons, special weapons, anti-infantry. Here in anti-infantry, I consider a heavy anti-infantry like autocannons or this type of weapons, and then we have the anti-tank weapons. So we see that the best ones are the jet bikes, and then we have the Reavers have a good resistance because they are cheap against heavy and special weapons, but they are not as good when they receive shooting from common weapons. If we compare them to very resistant units, we see why Manvex, thanks to have this rolled and stealth, if they keep that, they are super resistant. Of course, they're very dependent on the cover, but also the plague zombies are much resistant in them, since that they are very cheap. If we compare against common shooting, Chaos Space Marines, for example, are very resistant against common shooting, even better than Terminators. But if we look at special anti-infantry, anti-tank weapons, we can see that the bikes are better than some of these units. But by far the worst case in that case are the Harlequin bikes, the Skyweavers, and you see as well that against anti-tank weapons they are very vulnerable, because they don't take the advantage of the 2 wounds per unit per miniature. So if we look the total number, we see that Skyweavers are very penalized, are quite low in resistance. They are one of the lowest units together with the Purgation Squad or the Strike Squad, so they are penalized because they are elite units. And the Eldar Jet bikes are good, are not bad. Of course, they are not as resistant as the very cheap units, but they are not in bad position. And the Reavers are not in bad position either, because they are not very expensive. So, but the worst bikes in resistance are the Skyweavers. If we look at melee, so we see that bikes are not made at melee. So normally I do the attack, the defense, and then what you have to do is the difference. The attack is normalized. Normally the defense, it's the attack they will receive back. We see that they have the offensive power is quite poor compared to other units that have a good offensive power, like cultists, because you can do a lot of attacks with cultists, or if you look, some units specialized in close combat, like the Terminators. So they are in a very bad position. So they are not units for close combat unless you can kill the unit at once. So with the assault, and yeah, I take into account the Hammer of Wrath, and this is why the attack. If you see the attack of the Reavers with the cluster caltrops is better But the problem is, if you don't kill the unit, you will receive massive damage when the opponent is striking back, and then you have to kill the unit that you are assaulting if you want to avoid to suffer in the close combat. Of course, Reavers have hit and run, so they can do very well against small units. They can eliminate with the cluster caltrops. If they don't eliminate the unit with the cluster caltrops, then they will be strike back and they will be disseminated. Assaulting vehicles. Here is where we can see when they assault light vehicles and heavy vehicles. So if you assault with the Reavers with the cluster captors, you have some opportunities to make some damage. So they are not a bad option to assault vehicles, but you have to assault vehicles by the light armor. And here I mean you have to find a vehicle that have armor 10 or 11 and try to find the side, attack the side that have the low armor to make use of the cluster caltrops. If you compare to units specialized in close combat, they are not as good, but they don't have a bad option. So conclusions that I have. So bikes, of course, they are very good in moving. All these bikes have the same moving, and they are very good in shooting, but they are very fragile. So you have to use the bikes or in a very small groups to hold objective and try to get out of the combat, or to hostigate small units from the enemy to harass the flanks of the enemy and try to find the weak points. So this is for me the main use. You have to try to avoid to get stuck in close combat. So bikes are very fragile in melee if they hit you back. All the Eldar bikes, and the only ones that are a little bit stronger are the normal Eldar or the craft Eldar, because they have the 3+ armor save. But you have to think that the Weavers, the Skyweavers and the Reavers only have 4+ armor. There are a lot of weapons that have AP 4 or better in close combat. So for me, yeah, and to fulfill this role, I have the feeling that the best ones are the craft Eldar. You can have very cheap units with 60 points, 3 bikes. You invest very little points. You have a good shooting platform with the what's called is the shuriken cannon and the shuriken weapons, and you can avoid the enemy by moving and with the battle combat focus. So the problem I see with the Harlequins, they are very expensive for the resistance they have. So you are going to be very careful with the returning fire and with the hit back from the enemy. And in the case of the Dark Eldar, you have to think what is the role they have to do. If you want them to be a shooting and harass unit, or you want to use the cluster caltrops and try to eliminate small units. If you assault 10 Space Marines, even with 2 cluster caltrops, you're going to get stuck in close combat and they will hit you back, and you will receive a lot of damage from them. And here what I wanted to do at the end is a small ranking to compare the different units. If I have to classify them, I will say the Windriders are the best Eldar Jet bike. I will put the Reavers in second position, and I will put the Skyweavers in the last position. So I think, and here if we see in shooting, the Windriders and the Skyweavers are the best. Reavers are good, but are regular units, so they are not that good. If we look at shooting against monsters, of course Reavers are better than a Skyweaver, and it's where the Skyweavers suffer more. If we look shooting at light vehicles, and here I take the Skyweaver with the shuriken cannon, because I think it's the best way to go. But of course here these are going to shift. If you are good at shooting heavy vehicles, then you're going to be penalizing the rest. So you have to think the Skyweaver where you want to specialize. If we look in shooting total, I would say Windriders and the Skyweavers are the best, and then we have the Reavers. But then, when we look And resistance, the Skyweaver is very penalized. When we look at melee, the Skyweaver is also very penalized. Sorry again. So this is for me the ranking. Windriders is the best. They give a lot of flexibility. They have good shooting, and they can fulfill very well the role of capturing objective. You only invest 60 points, and you have 3 banks that they can move, can cover the battlefield in one turn. In the Skyweavers, yeah, you can go for 100 points, but you have a little bit better shooting. But if you look in the statistics, they are not much better than the Windriders in shooting. And the Reavers, they add a lot of flexibility. You can have units to specialize in hunting tanks, and here I will say that if you want to do that, put the hill lances, or you can specialize them in trying to eliminate the small units from the enemy, and then you put the cluster caltrops. So that's all what I want to share. Please give me your opinion. What do you think about this comparison? You play Eldar, which is your favorite jet bike unit of these three? Leave your comment below. What do you think about this analysis, and if it's matching with your experience? So that's all for this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in later. Bye.